She was a monster of steel, the largest aircraft carrier ever built.
The largest warship Japan ever hid was not supposed to vanish like this. It was born from the same secret program that created Yamato and Musashi, the biggest battleships the world had ever seen. But after Japan's devastating losses at Midway, this unfinished monster was transformed into something even more ambitious, a 72,000-ton aircraft carrier, armored like a fortress, built in total secrecy, and designed to keep Japan's carrier fleet alive. There were no official construction photographs. Workers were sworn to silence. Even American intelligence barely knew it existed. But in November 1944, before the ship was truly finished, Japan made a desperate decision. They sent Shinano out to sea on its very first voyage. 17 hours later, the largest aircraft carrier ever built was gone, and 80 years later, it is still missing beneath the Pacific. To understand why Shinano still has not been found, you first have to understand what it was. Shinano began as the third Yamato-class battleship, the same class as Yamato and Musashi, the largest and most heavily armed battleships ever constructed. These were not ordinary warships. They were built in secrecy, displaced nearly 72,000 tons, and carried the largest naval guns ever mounted on a ship. Shinano was laid down in May 1940 at the Yokosuka Naval Arsenal in Tokyo Bay. At first, it was supposed to follow the same path as Yamato and Musashi, a gigantic battleship built to dominate the sea. Then, in June 1942, everything changed. At the Battle of Midway, Japan lost 4 of its best aircraft carriers in a single day. The loss was catastrophic. Those carriers could not be replaced quickly, and the Japanese Navy suddenly needed a solution. Shinano was still under construction, still a battleship, but it was the largest unfinished hull available. So, the order came down: convert Shinano into an aircraft carrier, but not a normal carrier. Shinano was designed to serve as a support carrier, a floating base that could resupply other carriers with spare aircraft, fuel, and ammunition during battle. At 72,000 tons, it would be the largest carrier ever built. Its armored flight deck was designed to withstand the largest bombs American aircraft could drop. To Japanese Naval Command, Shinano was meant to be an unsinkable floating fortress. Its construction was surrounded by extreme secrecy. No official photographs were taken during the build. Workers signed strict secrecy oaths, with punishments that could include death for anyone who revealed what was being constructed. Shinano became the only major warship of the 20th century never officially photographed while under construction. Even American intelligence did not know the truth. A captured Japanese aviator had reported in 1943 that a third Yamato-class ship was being converted into a carrier, but the Americans dismissed the claim as unreliable. After the war, when they finally learned Shinano had existed, U.S. naval intelligence officers were stunned. The largest aircraft carrier ever built had been constructed almost entirely in the dark. By late November 1944, Shinano was commissioned, but it was far from finished. Watertight doors had not been fully installed. Critical pumps were missing. The crew of around 2,500 men was inexperienced, and many had never served on a warship before. The ship's chief constructor, Fukuda, asked for the sailing date to be delayed so essential systems could be completed. His request was denied. The reason was urgency. American B-29 Superfortress bombers had begun operating near Yokosuka. If Shinano remained in the dockyard, it could be destroyed before ever reaching the sea. The decision was made to move the carrier immediately to Kure Naval Base, about 300 miles away, where the final fitting out could be completed. It would sail at night. 3 destroyers would escort it. At 6 p.m. on November 28, 1944, Shinano left Tokyo Bay on its maiden voyage. Guard workers were still aboard, still working as the unfinished giant moved into open water. Everything up to this point is only the setup, because what happened that night is where the story becomes almost impossible to believe. 3 hours after leaving port, Shinano's lookouts detected radar emissions from an American submarine. The carrier began zigzagging to evade attack. The submarine was USS Archerfish, commanded by Commander Joseph Enright. Archerfish had originally been assigned to lifeguard duties for B-29 raids over Tokyo, but the raids had been canceled that day. With no pilots to rescue, the submarine was left to patrol. Then its radar picked up something enormous. The crew had no idea what they were tracking. Contact was far larger than anything they expected to find. Enright gave chase. Shinano should have escaped easily. It was faster than Archerfish and could have outrun the submarine in minutes. But Captain Toshio Abe made a fatal decision. Believing he was being followed by an entire wolf pack of American submarines rather than one boat, Abe kept zigzagging Instead of opening the distance, Shinano repeatedly crossed back into Archerfish's path. For hours, the chase continued. Archerfish could not quite get into position. Shinano could not quite shake it. A faster ship was being stalked by a slower submarine because its own evasive maneuvers kept pulling it back into danger. Then, at 3:15 a.m. on November 29th, Captain Abe changed direction again. This time, he accidentally exposed Shinano's full broadside to Archerfish at close range. Enright fired 6 torpedoes. 4 struck the carrier. On almost any other ship, that would have been fatal immediately. 4 torpedoes into the side of the largest aircraft carrier ever built should have triggered panic. But Abe remained confident. Shinano was heavily armored. It had been designed to survive punishment, so he ordered full speed maintained to escape any follow-up attack. That was the second fatal mistake. The speed forced seawater through the torpedo holes faster than damage control teams could handle, and because the ship was unfinished, the flooding could not be contained. Watertight doors were missing or incomplete. Pumps were unavailable in key areas. Water spread from compartment to compartment almost unchecked. Shinano was not defeated only by torpedoes. It was defeated by being sent to sea before it was ready. By dawn, the carrier was listing badly. Abe ordered the escorting destroyers to tow Shinano toward the nearest cape so it could be beached, but the flooded ship was too heavy. The tow cables snapped. By 10 a.m., the list had reached 30 degrees. The order was given to abandon ship. At 10:57 a.m. on November 29, 1944, just 17 hours after leaving Tokyo Bay, the largest aircraft carrier ever built capsized and sank. Of the approximately 2,500 people aboard, 1,435 were lost, including Captain Abe, who went down with the ship. Around 1,080 survived. USS Archerfish returned to Guam. When Commander Enright reported what he had sunk, the Navy did not believe him. At first, he was credited with sinking a cruiser. Later, that was upgraded to a 28,000-ton escort carrier. Only after the war did the full truth emerge. Enright had sunk a 72,000-ton supercarrier on its maiden voyage. Archerfish received the Presidential Unit Citation. Enright was awarded the Navy Cross. Japan, meanwhile, buried the disaster in secrecy. The loss of Shinano was classified as a state secret. Survivors were quarantined for months to keep the news from reaching the public. The ship that had been called an unsinkable floating fortress had lasted 17 hours. Here is the part almost nobody talks about. Shinano sank in a known area off the Pacific coast of Japan. Both sides operated in those waters during the war. And yet, 80 years later, nobody has gone back and found it. Not because no one cared, because Japan would not allow it. Robert Ballard, the man who found Titanic, Bismarck, and USS Yorktown, wanted to search for Shinano. He approached the Japanese government for permission. Japan refused. The wreck lies outside Japanese territorial waters, but the reasons for the refusal were never fully explained. And then there is the other problem: depth. Shinano sank southeast of the Izu Peninsula. Some estimates place the wreck more than 6,000 meters below the surface. That would make it deeper than Titanic, and deeper than almost any known shipwreck on Earth. If those estimates are correct, Shinano is not just missing, it is nearly unreachable. The Yamato was found in 1985. The Musashi was found in 2015 after an 8-year search by Paul Allen. But Shinano remains somewhere in the dark Pacific. More than 1,000 men still inside. Nobody has found it. Nobody has been allowed to search properly. And even if permission were granted tomorrow, reaching it would still be one of the hardest deep-sea wreck searches ever attempted. 3 ships, 3 fates, 2 found, 1 still missing.